Hello everyone, welcome. I am still ploughing my way through the Stephen Quiller Colour Choices book. So let's clear up a little bit. Just as a reminder, these are the colours that I have put in my palette following the Stephen Quiller what did he call it? Workable palette, I think he called it. So let's just, yes, the workable palette. So I've done that, and then the next thing that I have done is, let's see if we can find it, is to come up with the neutrals and semi-neutrals. So there's a lovely chart here somewhere. Warm and cool. Ah, there it is. So yeah, I was using this chart to find the neutrals and semi-neutrals, and these are colours that are opposite each other on the colour wheel. So this is the page that I was using, and you can see here on this diagram it shows cadmium scarlet and phthalo blue, and then we've got oh bless me, and then we've got the colours going between those with the neutral in the middle there. So I'm going to share that with you next. I started doing this on my previous video. Let me just try and straighten myself up here. That's a bit better. What I actually used to do these on was this Paul Rubens watercolor book. It's a it's glued on all four sides, so there's a little section at the top here, and with a palette knife, or this is a letter opener, you just slot it in. There we go, where are we? And you just run that all the way around to unglue it from the four sides. But that worked really well for doing this particular exercise. This is the picture that comes in the front of that book, by the way. So we'll just pop that back there for a minute. So let's have a little look at our complementary colours opposite each other on the colour wheel, the neutrals and then the semi-neutrals. So I started off with cadmium yellow and ultramarine violet, and you can see the neutral and then the two semi-neutrals. So this one has more ultramarine violet in it than cadmium yellow, and this one has more cadmium yellow than ultramarine violet. And then I just did this big splash just to see what would happen if I decided to just use those two colours in a painting. Would I have enough variation to be able to do that? And I don't mind it. I don't mind that one. Let's look at the next one, which is Pyrrole Orange and Ultramarine. So I think this is quite a striking colourway, and I don't mind that one either. I might use that one in a moment to do the next exercise in the Stephen Quiller book. This is the primary red and the cobalt turquoise, which I think is rather lovely. And then we have the Scarlet Lake and Cobalt Turquoise, mainly because I couldn't quite see which one went opposite the Cobalt Turquoise, but it's fine. I think I prefer this to this. And then we've got Scarlet Lake with Payne's Grey Bluish. This one I think is beautiful spring kind of colour. So this is sap green and magenta. And I would be very tempted to use that one in a spring painting. This one I absolutely adore. It's the Viridian and Permanent Rose. I love the fact that you get this grey neutral, and I just think that those two colours are striking together. And just as a reminder, that was my little colour wheel that I did to help me. So the next project, I've got my little palette here ready to use, and I'll move that one out of the way. And I'm going to be keeping all of these in this little container here, but yeah, maybe we will use, let's use the Pyro Orange. Where was that? This one. So let's use Pyro Orange and Ultramarine. And if we look at this example here, so we've got 6 studies here. 6 studies of one group of buildings. Apparently these are from New Mexico. All these studies use complementary colours. So we've got orange and blue. Plus he's added black and white, or you can use water to lighten. So it's a monochromatic scene. Orange is the one colour that shows in the painting, but blue has been used to neutralise the orange. So let me grab my little book here, and let's try, maybe I'll divide my page in 2. And let's find a, I mean, this is a rough dividing in 2, by the way. And maybe I will do something similar. So let's get a building in here. So we'll get a bit of a building going on. That goes across. And there. And then we've got some kind of a tree coming down here. And bushes at the front here. Right, so on this one we have got, where are we? We've got this bit, and we've got a triangle, and then we've got that little circle in there, and we've got this part of a building at the top here. With its little cross on it. And then we've got this rooftop that comes across. I think we need a bit more. There we go. So that's just a rooftop there that goes across like that. We've got another rooftop there. That one comes down. And that one comes down, and then we've got this bit going across there with a bit coming down there, and then we've got some windows in there. So yeah, that's round about right. And then we've just got our tree coming up and across. So let's just get a couple of those in now that I know what I'm doing. So we'll get our tree in roughly, and we've got this bush here, bushes going down there, then we've got this coming across, and we've got this bit here, and then that bit comes across like so. This other roof coming across there, that goes down, got a bit going across here, that's going to come down, windows, and that comes down like that. Okay, so just roughly anyway. Now I'm going to need to mix up plenty of the, let's find a paintbrush, there we go, and some water. Okay, let's bring our paint in. Right, we need some pyrrole orange, and what are we using? Ultramarine. Okay, so we've got, well, got to do that line, didn't I? Right, so I need to mix, where is my thing here? So I need something that's going to be more of a browny orange. So I need to mix my just get a bit more going. It's just maybe we'll add a bit more so that I get this quite dark colour. Okay, so I want this pretty dark colour across the top here. Now mine hasn't come out brown because I'm using a slightly different palette, but it's fine. I think, you know, we're just doing an experiment here. So, and that really goes down the side, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. Now, I want a bit more orange over here for this bush. And we'll make up a slightly different colour. Bit more blue. For one of the roofs. I'll just have that watered down a bit. For around here, is that going to be too close to that colour? Yeah, that's well. There we go. We've added that colour in. And a darker bit down here. Okay, then we take our Pyrrole orange and we're going to make this roof stand out. Which it does. Okay. Let's get this little window in there. And then we've got some windows here. Like so. Well, I'm not sure that I managed to get mine as dark. I'm thinking that I needed to darken that up. And that bit up. Yeah. And then maybe I'll even go over some of this to get some effect going on. And we need to get those trees in. Let's go down a size. And I'm really not doing this particularly carefully. I'm just doing this because I want to see the effect and see, you know, what happens just using these two colours basically, which is rather interesting. Yeah, I think he's probably used white there. So let's get the little cross there. Let's probably a bit too wet, but we've got that white going up and round. Okay, so I really haven't waited for that to dry. Because I'm really just playing here. Let's grab a, because that's kind of run. Okay, so I mean I was basically trying to do this one here, but yeah, I'm not sure that the colours that I've picked are the right colours, to be honest. So I'm going to have another go over here, and I'm actually going to use, what shall we use? I'm going to try it using the cadmium yellow and the ultramarine violet now. I'm going to clean that off. Okay, let's have a go with this one. So we need some nice amount of the yellow. And then ultramarine violet over here. Let's get some mixes going on. Right. So I'm going to do it again. And I think this time we will use this colour, which is mostly cadmium yellow and a little bit of I'll add a bit more. So let's get our background in. And we'll be able to see the difference between so now let's add, make that a bit darker. There we go, we've got more of a brown going on now. And I think we will have this roof in the ultramarine violet this time, with a little bit going across there and a little bit going across there. And then we need a colour for our bushes. And this time I'm really mixing those colours in. Okay. So let's take our ultramarine violet and we'll get this window in there. And those ones in there. And then I want a really quite dark colour for my trees. Yeah, that looks quite dark. I mean, this is going to run because I'm not waiting for it to dry, basically. But it's just an experiment, so I'm not feeling precious about it. I'm just treating it a bit like I would a thumbnail almost. Okay. I think what I missed on this one was adding yeah, I missed that, didn't I? Right, let's just add a little bit there then. And then let's take our white. Let's get our little cross in. Those windows in. And maybe we'll add a bit of white down there. So let's move this a minute. And let's bring these up. So, I mean, obviously, the studies here, there are lots of different studies that you can do. And he is using black and white in these. I've only used white. But I think you can see there's quite an impact by just using two colours that are opposite each other on the colour wheel, complementary colours, and then mixing those two colours to get the semi-neutrals and the neutral. I'm just going to dry these off and tidy them up. I'll be back in a tick. Okay, so I've dried those off. If, like me, sorry, nasty cold again, you use multimedia, then I'm just going to see if I can tidy this up because of the fact that I I didn't wait for it to dry really, did I? So I've just pulled out some coloured pencils. So that I can just give this all a little bit more I think that's just tidied that one up a little bit. And I just want to tidy this back up again. That's better. Okay, so I'm liking that one a little bit more. Now let's okay, and we'll do these edges a bit more. And then I need to do this one. That's a bit better. And then I'm just tidying up a bit really with the pencil, which I do quite a bit anyway, usually. So I think that makes a bit of a difference. So there we are. Those are our two little studies. This was the orange and blue. This was the yellow and violet. And obviously you could keep going with any of the other combinations of colours that are opposite each other on the colour wheel. But I think it's quite interesting and quite impressive as to how, effective that is. Let's just take this one out. There we go. So I've detached that one now. And I think then we can fit it in there and you can kind of see what I've been having a go at. So perhaps that is an experiment that you might want to do. Take your colour wheel. If you've got a palette of colours, then map it out on a colour wheel using the Stephen Quiller example. and then taking some colours that are opposite each other on the colour wheel and deciding to have a little bit of a play like I have. And I think the one that I'm most interested in, really, I really love these two. And maybe this one. So out of all the ones that I did, personally, I think the Viridian and Permanent Rose, the Scarlet Lake and Cobalt Turquoise, and the Sap Green and Magenta are ones that I will have a further play with. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how you can take a scene and then use just two colours and all of the colours you can mix with those two colours to really give an atmosphere. So for me, this one is very much more daytime, and this one is almost like dusk. And so depending on the atmosphere that you want to give off, you can choose your colours. As I said, I think personally this for me is springtime. But it'll be interesting to do springtime, and then maybe something else that is perhaps more nighttime, for example. So perhaps I could then do, where have you gone? So maybe this is more nighttime. I might do a comparison between those two. Excuse my cough and my cold. Right, well, I'm going to be having more of a play just using the complementary colours, the neutrals and semi-neutrals that I can make, and just doing more of these exercises before I move on to the next part. Yeah. So it could be quite interesting to try these next ones. Complementary colour schemes. That's what we're working on. Oh, analogous and split complementary. So we'll try that one next. But for the time being, I'm going to leave it with you to maybe have a play yourself with just using two colours that are complementary opposite each other on the colour wheel. Have some fun, everybody.